Welcome to the Success in Africa podcast with Dr Modupe, your weekly dose of leadership vitamins to make you successful in Africa.
Hello, and welcome to the Success in Africa podcast. My name is Dr Modupe Taylor Pierce, and I am a scholar and practitioner of leadership and organizational development. Simply put, I study what makes people successful. I've been doing this for 3 decades now with a particular focus on people in Africa. And in this podcast, I share stories, lessons, insights about people having success in Africa. We've been doing this for over a year, and this year we're focusing a bit more on actually bringing the people to you so you can hear their stories from the proverbial horse's mouth. And today I'm so excited to bring you somebody who has been described as an insurance mogul, a financial services magnate, a smart investor, a steady hand. He is the group CEO of the company that represents one of the most valuable stocks on the Malawi Stock Exchange. This, folks, is none other than Mr. Vizenge Kumwenda, the group CEO of Nico Holdings. I just want to share the fact that we do this for you in Africa. You who want to be successful in Africa, whether you're in Africa or in the diaspora, so that you can see that it is possible to be successful and you can see how to be successful. Let's continue, please.
You are spot on. You are spot on. And I must say, even to this day, the idea of really being ready to learn, to listen, and acknowledge if somebody is better than you, acknowledge it. Okay. And see, how does he do it? And, what I found is that, you see, once I've learned how someone is doing it, how my friend is doing it, how a colleague is doing it, then I add my own touch. Now, once I've added my own touch, actually, I have become even better than the person I've learned from. I think for me, that's is something that is so powerful. In 1994, I was appointed as the group CFO, and the position I held on until 2001. And in the meantime, as I said, when I was joining, my company is financial services, my group is financial services, insurance is at the core of it. So now, insurance is all about terminology. So it's full of jargon. Now, as a finance person, you're trying to you prepare these financials, but you're also supposed to interpret them to say, look, this is what they mean. So that then if there are problems, you can tell your bosses or indeed stakeholders to say, look, guys, we're in trouble here, or here we're doing so well. Okay, now, so it's this terminology thing, then it meant I had to be asking people, my colleagues, to say, look, what does this mean? What does that mean? Now there would be time I would say, yes, what they're explaining to me makes sense. But there would also be times when really what they're explaining to me, and if I say I try to reconcile it with what they had told me the previous time, or indeed what somebody else within the organization is saying, you find that there's a disconnect. So somebody somewhere is perhaps not really, telling it the correct way. Now, look, that was a struggle for me. So I said, look, how do I deal with this? I decided I'll study insurance. Okay, I said, look, I have to study insurance so that I understand this thing. It's causing me so much pain because when I have the financials, I'm not able to really explain to the extent I want to explain. So Modupe, this was perhaps something that was even more difficult because I was sitting insurance exams in the same exam room with junior members of staff. And, there would be these junior members of staff. They would just be looking at me and say, what is the boss doing here? So I'll just sit my exams and I leave the exam room. I said, look, I have no time to be explaining to people. I know what I'm looking for. So at the end of the day, I started and I qualified as, as an insurance person. And to a point that I was so comfortable understanding the business, perhaps even better than the what we call the co-insurance people, because in finance you would be looked at as support, all right. But actually that in fact that made me so, I could tell my team members, especially my boss, because of the unique contribution I was bringing, then everywhere he went, he wanted me to be by his side. Okay. And which it was good, I must say. Then came the time I felt I had done finance for too long. I needed to go into the mainstream, business. And I remember I did ask my boss, there was a vacancy, to be CEO of one of the subsidiary companies, the general insurance company. I said, boss, yes, I know I'm a finance guy. I was the most, as I say, I was the group CFO. I said, look, I've done finance for long. I need to move. Now, somehow he didn't believe I was serious. So that vacancy, instead of giving me an opportunity, he brought somebody from outside. Okay, so I said, okay. But it was because he thought I was joking. He thought I wasn't serious. And for him, my thinking was that, look, you're a finance person. I mean, how do you come into the mainstream? So in June 2001, I changed jobs. I went for a smaller company, all because they had promised me that actually here, we'll put you in charge of, you'll be in charge of finance, but you also be in charge of some, operations. And they said in preparing you to become the CEO of this entity. So this was a discount house, which was it's a specialized kind of bank. And so it was a small entity, I must say. The only thing is that they were able to offer me more money than where I was. So I said, look, these guys is a small entity, they're offering more money, and then they're telling me they would take me out of the mainstream finance and put me in the core business. So that was exciting. So I was there for 4 years, and then when I was joining this company was a monopoly, and we're making lots of money. But then we had competition. When another discount house was set up, it was so competitive. Our performance margins dropped, so the business had to undergo some kind of restructuring. So then I had asked to say, look, you know what, Viz, we know there's competition now, we need to diversify, but it's your choice. Either you stay in the mainstream, discount house operation, or you can move to the asset management. But on asset management, you have to set up the operations from scratch. So
Wow.
the only thing is that you see, we had generous bonus policy, but then they said, look, but you have to get your bonuses from the line of business that you're running. So in this case, if you move to set up the asset management stream, then obviously you have to make money there to pay yourself bonuses. What it meant is that, but if I stayed with the discount house operation, I would continue getting good bonuses, okay, but then I would actually more or less remain again in the finance section, okay, because they had, there was another guy that they were saying was going to be CEO there. On the other hand, if I moved to the asset management side, I would be CEO there, but it meant, I would say bye-bye to the bonuses, because this is a greenfield, and it would have to take me a bit of time, make the money before. Yes, I said to them, look, I didn't come here to be a finance person. I came here to come into the mainstream. So in this case, I'm not going to stay in the discount house operation. I'm going to take on the asset management. That's so that I'm CEO there. Obviously, again, I knew I was going to pay a price, but for me, that was fitting with my long-term goal, to be in charge of the entity. Obviously, they sent me for training. I went for training, came back, set up the entity. started operating. It was hard work. I'll never ever forget that. You see, I had never done marketing in my life. I was on the road. You won't believe it. I was on the road here in Malawi. There are two main cities, Blantyre and Lilongwe. So I was on the road going to Lilongwe, to meet clients. Now I had a tight budget. So I had to find ways of, minimizing costs. So I would go leave early in the morning, drive 300 Ks, do meetings, and then drive back because staying in hotels was going to be expensive. It was going to be costly.
And that's is that a 4-hour drive? How many hours was that?
In those days, it was three and a half. So, and you know what, Modupe, you've got an appointment with a client. You go there, you find the client is driving out. So, but I came here, we agree. So, can we meet tomorrow? I said, no, I'm going back to Blantyre. He said, oh, no, then let's reschedule. Okay, let's reschedule. That helped me to understand the importance of acquiring a client. A client is not easy to acquire. Once you've acquired a client, if somebody else does something that makes you lose that client, that's why, management is mad, because it's not easy to get business. I learned it that way, So anyway, I'm glad to say, again, after 12 months, the business started picking up, and I had mastered the art, doing marketing pitches. I never used to know those things. Yeah. So after 12 months, guess what? I said, look, I now know this business. Now, why do I have to continue working for someone? I might as well just set up my own asset management business and break my back there. But at the end of the day, once the business is successful, I'm going to reap the benefits of my business, because here, if I continue working here after 5-10 years, when maybe I decide to move on, that's when the business will be picking up. And look, I thought I was out. So anyway, I decided I would resign to set up my own asset management business. I did incorporate the business. But then just as I was about, and I tell you, when I was leaving, my wife wasn't happy with me, but I was determined. So then just as I was about to, I had resigned, left, as I was about to operationalize my business, then my current employer reached out to me, said, Viz, we want you to come back. I said, really? This was the first call I had gotten from my previous CEO since I left, Nico. And that was a 4-year period. And that just tells you how much it was that I left. So, but anyway, he came back and said, look, I want you to come back. I couldn't believe it.
So this is the employer who had essentially pigeonholed you into a finance slot, and you had to leave in order to learn the operations and core business. And after you had done that, 4 years later, the same employer then said, please come back.
Yes.
So they were watching you all this time.
Well, I guess so. I guess so. What had happened at that time, they had a finance director. Then the group had grown. So they had an expert finance director who was leaving. So now they were saying, look, now they said, look, either we have to advertise in the international papers to get someone here, and that's going to take us 6 months. And they said, reaching out to me, if I accepted, they said, look, Viz, you know the business, and you hit the ground running. So that's why we're attracted to you, that you should come back. So anyway, I did reflect on it. At the end of the day, I said, okay, fine. Look, I'll pack my idea of setting up my own asset management business. I'll join my boss as a finance director.
Fantastic. So let me pause you here because I'm dividing this into thirds. Now we're coming back towards the as they say, the climax period. But so far, a couple of things that I'm picking up, nuggets of wisdom. One, you had the courage to leave a comfortable position for one that was a little bit more risky because it was aligned with your vision. And you did
Correct.
that twice. One, first leaving a bigger company for a smaller company, and then within the smaller company, going for essentially a greenfield operation versus something with security. And that's the importance of being vision focused. You knew what you wanted to be and where you wanted to go in the long term, and you were willing to take the risks that it came with in order to change track. So that's one nugget of wisdom. The second that I'm getting is that you recognized that you didn't know insurance and you didn't worry about whether you will be in class with younger people. You invested in your own knowledge, whether it was for insurance or for marketing, but you taught yourself, you made sure that you equipped yourself for success in that.
You're correct. Correct.
Amazing.
Correct.
And then the third
Correct.
thing, the third nugget of wisdom was that you learned about marketing and you learned just how much effort it takes to win a customer. And that has informed how much you cherish your customers and make sure that
Correct.
once they're your customers, they have no reason to ever leave you.
Correct. You're spot on.
Amazing.
You're spot on.
Amazing. I hope
That's what-
listeners were getting these nuggets of wisdom because this is from somebody who can easily be the oracle of Malawi.
Tomorrow belongs to those people who prepare for it today. See you next week.